He went on to start DreamWorks with Steven Spielberg and David Geffen.
Hmm.
And what I respect and admired about him as a leader is, number one, his endeavors usually came with extreme success, and not just financial success, although that too. But he never wanted the spotlight. He had a level of humility that very few people that have a private jet have.
Welcome to the Loyalty by Leadership podcast, where I, Darrell Moon, your host, interview people who have been inspired by leaders, as well as leaders who strive to inspire, where we discuss leadership insights and strategies that add value and create loyalty. Awesome. Well, I'm excited today to be interviewing a good friend, David Contorno, CEO of ePower Benefits. David and I have been friends for many years. In fact, I still remember the day we went hiking through the Rocky Mountains together. I don't know, 10, 15 years ago? It's been a long time. Yes. So Dave, thank you for being our guest today on this inaugural session of the Loyalty by Leadership podcast. So tell me a little bit about leaders in your life. You know, growing up, companies you've worked for, what are some of the leadership styles, strategies, insights that you have respected in others that create loyalty within you?
Well, I will be honest with you that I grew up in a very neglectful childhood. The leadership that I saw in my father was one of extreme work ethic um, at the behest of everything else, including family time and caring. And there was a part of that that I find valuable and has really helped me in my life. It's also harmed me, but I have to give respect to the fact that he gave me a very strong work ethic. I started working when I was 12 years old in corporate America, under the table, granted. Um, but uh, but I think from that perspective, he gave me at least that piece of work ethic. Um, I, however, have garnered a lot of respect from some people who I either don't know personally or don't know personally nearly as well as I would like. And they're people that some people might not expect. The first, and I think perhaps the most compelling, is my uncle. My uncle, my mother's brother, is a gentleman by the name of Jeffrey Katzenberg. And Jeffrey Katzenberg used to be chairman of the board of Disney Productions. He helped bring all of Disney's TV, movie, and video studios from the least profitable division of Disney to the most profitable division of Disney. He did movies like The Lion King and some of the movies that were the most successful. Both he really took animated features from being a child only venue to being for
Mainstay.
adults. Yep,
Yeah.
as well. And then he went on to start DreamWorks with Steven Spielberg and David Geffen.
Hmm.
And what I respect and admired about him as a leader is, number one, his endeavors usually came with extreme success, and not just financial success, although that too. But he never wanted the spotlight. He had a level of humility that very few people that have a private jet have. And he still does. And he's a big believer in philanthropy. He says his one of his sayings that he said to me is, "You can't have what you don't give away."
Hmm.
And and again, he's very uncomfortable in the spotlight. He has been largely responsible for producing some of the largest grossing movies out there, especially on the animated side. Shrek, Can Kung Fu Panda, Ants, The Lion King. The list goes on and on and on. Um, and as well as non-animated features. And his name is not on the DVD box. His name is not in the credits on Netflix. He doesn't want it to be.
Hmm.
Um, he has a strong sense of earning what you have. He has a strong sense of leading by example. Within his organization, I've read books on him by other people. Like, for example, even in the Walter Isaacson biography on Steve Jobs, there's a section in there when Jeffrey, as part of Disney, purchased Pixar from Steve Jobs. And Steve Jobs was a very successful man, but not known as the nicest human being in the world. And I think there was a specific point to point out that you can be successful and that you can be a good leader and that you can inspire the best performance from people while still being respectful, by being a good example, by showing people kindness and love and caring, and most importantly, by learning them well enough, each and every individual person. And in companies as big as some of the companies we're talking about, it can be tough to learn each person individually, but to learn them well enough to know where their strengths lie and put them in the role where their greatest strengths lie. Because by doing so, you accomplish a couple things. The first off, and let's be honest, companies hire employees for one reason and one reason only: to make the company money. That is why they hire employees. Now, how they do that and what they do around that varies from company to company. But if you boil it down to its most basic thing, that is what, and a lot of companies look at how much revenue is this employee generating compared to how much it's costing me. And
Right.
what's the delta? And is the delta big enough for me to maintain their employment? Well, that
Yep.
delta grows when that person works in an environment where they feel that they are contributing, where they feel secure financially and emotionally, where they feel that they are providing a value to the company that is worth the revenue they are generating. And that is a very difficult thing to do. And to me, that is what culture is about. It is so much more and so much bigger and is determined by different people than I feel a lot of people are utilizing as the metrics today.
I love that, how you've broken that down to it's the same on both sides. A person works for a company because the value they get from working there keeps them there every day. And on the same token, an employer hires people because of the value that person brings. And it's that mutual value that are being brought by both that creates and continues that relationship. So I love that.
Exactly. Exactly.
Sounds like your uncle's an amazing. I love the humility, lead by example, be kind. Um, those are all amazing attributes of a good leader.
Yep. Yep. And I
Anybody?
suggest, I mean, you look him up because you'll see those are his attributes. He does not like the spotlight, and that is something that I've struggled with my whole life.
Sounds like a great example. Anybody else come to mind?
Well, it's a little dangerous to bring politics into this, but um,
Always.
let's forget about policy because that's probably not an area we should go to.
Right.
I have had the privilege of meeting four still living U.S. presidents.
Wow.
I have met Bill Clinton. I have met Barack Obama. I have met Joe Biden, and I have met Donald Trump.
Wow.
You can think we need to have a good person as a president. You can think being a good person doesn't matter as a president. I'm not here to speak to that. I have my own opinions. But
Right.
I can tell you that Joe Biden and Barack Obama in particular are two of the nicest human beings that I have ever met. They
Wow.
truly, truly care about other people. Do I agree with everything they've done? No, I
Right.
certainly don't. I also know trying to get things done in Congress is very challenging and often requires a lot of sacrifice, sometimes sacrifices you don't want to make. Maybe
Yeah.
some of that is true, maybe some of it isn't. But, we're supposed to be the greatest country in the world. I question which metric we're using for that because I, other than maybe wealth, and even that has been challenged lately, I don't know what metrics we are number one in, except people that believe in certain things that may or may not be real, and the number of people incarcerated per capita. We lead in those areas, but in the areas that I think that are really important, we don't lead in. We don't, and even as it relates to culture and workforce, we don't lead in paid time off. We don't lead in paternity. When it comes to healthcare, we don't lead in health outcomes. We don't lead in infant mortality rates. We don't lead in maternal mortality rates. We don't lead in how much money we spend on primary care. We don't lead in, we do lead in the cost per capita of healthcare by a lot.
By twice as
So,
much as
yeah,
everybody else.
at least. So there are some areas in which we lead in, but those are not the areas. And we call ourselves the greatest country in the world. And I think at one point we were, in many ways, at least in enough ways to be able to say that confidently. And I just don't feel that way. I'm here in Mexico right now recording this, and I used to be proud to pull out my American passport. And I just don't feel that way. When I look around and I see how hard people work here and how much dedication they have to their employees and the type of service they provide to their employee to the customers that are here, that's becoming more and more rare in the United States. It's still there. It still happens. I have great
Right.
experiences often with Apple and Amazon and some of those companies that are known for that. But they're now the standouts by far.
Yeah.
And so what are they doing within their culture besides paying a lot of money? But again, I don't think that's the only thing. One of the rumors I've heard, for example, is that one of Google's biggest expenses as it relates to healthcare, and I have no evidence behind this, but has to do with gender reassignment, medicine, and surgery. And you may or may not agree that that's the right thing, but you know what? It's important to the people who want to get it done. And they're making a space, both financially and within the workplace, for that to be okay. That's culture. Culture is disagreeing with somebody and still respecting them and
Yeah.
still allowing them to feel valuable. That's what culture is. It's taking care of people even when their skin color is different, their religion is different, their cultural background is different. That's part of what culture is, and we're losing so much of that. It's only getting worse, I feel like.
Well, I would agree with you. And I have you read the book The Go Giver?
I have not.
Are you familiar with that? So The Go Giver is it's like one of the top sold books in history. It's basically a story. It's a fictitious story about how the principle of expecting to give more than you expect to receive can be wildly successful in your personal life as well as in your business life, in your association with others. And so it's this idea of creating value. And so,
Mm,
like you said, Google's willing to create value by saying we're willing to pay for some things that we may or may not agree with, but it's important to you, so we're giving you that value. And that is so well accepted by the person that my employer gives me value that's important to me personally, that they're willing to be incredibly loyal to the company.
right. I mean, the fact that we have to have departments and people to oversee diversity, equity, and inclusion at this point in 2025, I feel is akin to in what I do, which I know you're gonna give me a few minutes at the end. Hire me to manage your health plan, but then allow me, pay me more to hire someone to handle certain aspects of your health plan. That's like hiring an attorney, but then hiring three other attorneys to handle other aspects of the case. You're hiring the attorney to do the job for you. You're
Let them
paying
do the
them to
job.
do the job for you. Let them do the job. And most importantly, and this happens in employer sponsored healthcare more than anywhere else, they demand things that are either not possible or hurtful. So,
Hmm.
to give another example in the legal field, it would be like me hiring an attorney and then me being the one responsible for creating my defense strategy.
Which is crazy.
You're crazy, right? Why'd
Yeah,
you hire me to begin with?
right. So, Dave, share with us some of the strategies that you strive to implement as a leader. You're a leader in many ways. You are a leader in a whole industry movement. You are a pioneer in that movement. You're also a leader of your company. You've led other companies and you sold those companies. So, obviously, leading is something you're very familiar with, you're used to. So, talk a little bit about some of the strategies you like to implement to build loyalty.
Well, I don't know if loyalty is the goal. I think for me, change is the goal. And oftentimes, when you change people and they start to believe as you believe, loyalty comes.
Okay.
But loyalty is often not the primary goal. Loyalty is the secondary or the tertiary goal. And it's not loyalty to me, by the way. I'm not looking for
Right.
that. I'm looking for loyalty, commitment to fix it. If we are the number one country in the world, if we're the number 10 country in the world, our healthcare system is nowhere near that. And that's where I focus. And so my style and where my success as far as being noticed has come from has been what many people would call the challenger sale. It should seem silly that I need to challenge the strategies we've been doing for 20 or 30 or 40 years when for that same period of time employers and employees have seen nothing but increasing costs and eroding benefits, but yet we keep doing the same thing over and over again. Sometimes we repurpose it, sometimes we call it something different, sometimes we make other promises that don't get fulfilled tied to it, but at the end of the day, trying to fix healthcare through the way that most employers do it, which is changing brokers or changing carriers,
Right.
is kind of like trying to fix your car by changing dealerships or changing the model that comes with air conditioning and doesn't come with air conditioning.
Right.
It doesn't change the quality of your car. And so we really need to start focusing on the car in this analogy. And everyone wants somebody else to do that because, listen, I get it. Their core business is not healthcare, right? Healthcare, and that's another thing that relates to culture, by the way. Most people don't offer health insurance and healthcare coverage because they want to. Most employers offer healthcare and health insurance coverage because they feel they have to,
Have to. Yep.
right?
It's
And
just
there's
one
a
of those
big difference.
requirements. Yep.
If you don't, then you don't have employees unless you're in one of those low paid, really young, high turnover,
High turnover
retail, right?
industries. Yep.
Like, fast food or some hotels or things like that. Although even hotels, look at Rosen Hotels down in Florida. He owns what, five or six or seven. He has one of the lowest turnover rates of any hotel in the country. He gives education to not only employees but their family. He pays for their education, but he has an on-site clinic. He has free generic medications. He has free surgery. So to say that these high turnover, lower income industries can't do it when he did it and has done it for a decade or more successfully is not true.
Yeah.
It might be harder. It might require more time and more investment. But at the end of the day, how much less expensive is that than having to train new housekeeping staff, new reception, new front
Oh,
desk staff? Again, a culture in a service industry, especially.
right.
I went,
It's challenging.
I'm staying at a Westin hotel right now I'm a Marriott guy, so I'm staying at a Westin hotel in Cozumel. I spent the first part of my trip at a Marriott resort in Cancun. At the Marriott resort in Cancun, they all know my name. The managers know my name. They treat me like I am the most important person in that hotel.
That
I'm
makes a big
not getting
difference.
huge difference. It makes me want to go back there for a fourth time. I've already been there three
Yeah.
times. I'm not coming back to this hotel. And they have different levels of status. I'm at the highest level of status. So if anybody is going to get that treatment, it should be me. But they don't, that doesn't seem to be important to them. Whether they don't need it or they don't care or they don't have the right people training people. But my understanding is that over 40% of Marriott's revenue comes from the 1% that's at my status level. You better go out of your way to create a culture that protects those people,
Yeah.
that makes them feel special.
Well, it reminds me of a talk I heard recently at a customer experience conference where the speaker was talking about a hotel that when he went to the room, literally the bottle, the bar of soap, the basket of goodies and treats all had his name on it. Didn't take a lot of work for
No.
the hotel to put
Yep.
his name on all these different things. But man, did it make him feel special. And
Yep.
man, did it make him want to come back. And then he
Yep.
goes to a hotel, another hotel the next day, and it's like, yeah, just got all, it's all the generic stuff. And it's like such a big difference to just feel like you care about me. It's so
Same
important.
Same difference. The hotel in Cancun, I had a bowl of fruit waiting for me with bottles of water with a handwritten note. Thank you for your loyalty. Thank you for being Ambassador Elite. Thank you for choosing our hotel. You are welcome here anytime. If there's anything I can do for you, I'm the manager. Here's my direct phone number. Please let me know what I
Cool.
can do. That took less than 5 minutes, cost maybe $5.
Yeah, but it was huge.
Huge, huge.
Well, and that's why an employer who is willing to give money to an employee so that they can make more money, that employee chooses every day whether to continue staying at that employer. Every day, just like you choose to go to that hotel, every day employees decide whether to keep going to that employer. And so creating that level of, I care about you personally, and I want to create value for you, I think has a lot to do with retention. And
Yep.
call it loyalty, call it whatever, but it's creating that culture of, I'm going to get the best out of you because I'm giving you the best of me.
And I know this is true of employees, and I'm sure this is true of most businesses, if not all. It is a lot cheaper to keep a customer than it is
Oh,
to
yeah,
gain a new buddy. I mean, I watch Shark Tank.
absolutely.
I love that show, Shark Tank. And one of the questions they always ask is, "What's your customer acquisition cost?" And
Yeah,
sometimes it's $20 or $30 on a $5 product.
yeah,
That's insane.
yeah. But once you have them and there's some reoccurring revenue, oh, it's so much easier to keep them.
Yep. Yep.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, I think of all the times, like I purchased a wallet. I'm very picky about my wallets, and I purchased a relatively expensive wallet. It was $130, and it broke. And I emailed them, and they were, "Listen, we're a small family-owned company. We are so sorry to hear about things like this. Not only are we going to ship you out a new wallet, but we've since upgraded to a newer wallet. We're going to send you the upgraded wallet for free." Like that, I mean, that's going to make me loyal to them forever, right?
Right,
I'm not going anywhere
right.
else. So, again, culture is defined by the employee or the customer. It is not defined by the employer. The
Right.
employer claims to have a good culture. The employer wants to have a good culture. The employer thinks the culture is just health insurance or just paid time off or, just having a ping pong table in their waiting room. That's not what culture is. Culture is
Right.
what makes people feel valuable. And that's
Yep.
different for every person.
Well, and just to share with you before I give you a chance to talk about your services, one of my clients that I think is an amazing example of creating loyalty is that he he applies this go-giver strategy like nobody else I've ever met. He not only pays his employees towards their personal goals, not their work-related goals and how to become a better employee, but he's willing to give them $1,000 reimbursement towards a hobby they want to develop or a goal as a family, a bucket list, anything that's personal, that is important to them, that they value. He's willing to reimburse them towards that, even if it's starting up a new company that's going to be a competitor to him or that's going to mean the employee's going to leave. He doesn't care. It's like, I care about you enough that I will reimburse you $1,000 towards your dream, your aspiration, your bucket list. And oh, by the way, I'm going to pay for you to have a coach who supports you in reaching that goal. And oh, by the way, I'm going to pay you an incentive to work with that coach, that dream manager. It's one of the best examples I know of creating loyalty, because he cares more about providing value to them personally than he expects back from them. And he gets back from them immense loyalty and immense work. So just an example. With that, Dave, share with us a couple minutes about what you do, what you bring in the way of value to employers, so that everybody can know who you are.
Well, listen, I deal in the employee benefit space, specifically health insurance being the number one piece of that. And we've allowed it to come to a point where not only is it incredibly difficult for people to get care, not only is it even more difficult for people to get the right care, but once they find the care, once they find the right care, affording it, even with health insurance, has become near impossible for most Americans. And if people can't get the physical care they need for their arthritis, for their obesity, for their diabetes, for their cancer, for their mental health, for their well-being, for their physical health, they're not going to be a good employee. I don't care if they show up every day. I don't care if they show up on time. I don't care if they're afraid to take time off. And so one of the things that I think is key, not exclusive, but key to creating a good culture, is creating a health plan that is not what people want. What people want is a Blue Cross and Blue Shield plan that lets them see anyone they want and doesn't cost them any money. And that's just not a possibility. So let's talk about something that's possible. And I remember I spoke to a gentleman who was a business coach. And he told me this story about one of his clients was the CEO of one of the big record stores back in the days when they had record and CD stores. And they had a boy band, one of the biggest boy bands, who had a new album coming out, coming to do a concert in Times Square, their flagship store in Times Square, New York. And thousands and thousands and thousands of people took the day off and traveled all the way into New York City in order to see this concert. And the CEO was behind the scenes, and he has this big smile on his face, and the business coach is next to him, and the business coach says to him, "Why do you think everybody is here today?" And the CEO says, "Well, they're here to buy a CD, of course." And the business coach says, "Oh, so you think that everybody took time off from work, traveled all the way into New York City so they could buy this very difficult to open plastic case that once they opened it and revealed it, it revealed a circular silver disc. You think that's why they're here?" And the CEO looked at him like he's crazy. And the coach said to him, "They're here because they heard one of the new songs on the radio last week, and the sun was out, and they rolled their windows down, and it made them feel good. They're here to recreate that feeling." And I think when it comes to healthcare and health insurance, we need to stop catering to what people think they want. And we need to start to create plans that truly give them what they need, which is high quality access, immediate and affordable access to care that actually makes them better. There's one thing our healthcare and health insurance system doesn't want, and that's for you to be healthy. And there are possibilities, and there are people out there who know how to build plans for employers that cost 30, 40, 50% less and give employees access to the best care in the world. Because Most of the care in the US is not the best care in the world, with nothing out of their pocket. In addition to doing this with employers, we also have an arm that teaches brokers and consultants how to do this. We have a tremendous amount of experience and a tremendous amount of success in achieving these goals. And once you achieve these goals, you want to talk about culture. You want to talk about loyalty. Our employers have put things in like massage benefits every week, aromatherapy, enhanced mental health, GLP-1s for weight loss, things that would otherwise seem unaffordable, but are necessary and make people's quality of life better, make them more loyal to the employer, and make them better employees. It is not only possible, it is being done right now. You have to make certain changes. I can't do these things without making any changes. But if you want to start to engender loyalty, then create a health plan or work with someone that knows how to create a health plan. You don't have to know yourself. You can hire someone, but you have to ask different questions. It's not about what relationships do you have with the carriers. It's not about what data do you get and what can you do with it. It's about doing something with the data before the data occurs.
Right.
It's about helping employees access and consume and pay for care, or have the health plan pay for care differently than it does today. Paying for care through a health plan, like a name brand, large carrier health plan, is not only a way to decrease access, but it is not only the most expensive way to pay for healthcare in the United States, it is the most expensive way to pay for healthcare in the entire world. And again, like I said earlier, we're getting really poor outcomes for that really high price. There are different ways of doing that, and there are people that can show employers how to do that. And if you really want to engender loyalty, yeah, there's a change period, and people don't like change, and employers are very afraid to make these changes, very afraid. But I remember this cartoon, and it struck me so well. It was a single cartoon, and it was a CEO and a CFO. And the CFO said to the CEO, what if we invest all this money in training our employees and they leave? And the CEO said to the CFO, what if we don't and they stay?
Yeah, good point.
And I think the same thing is true here. What if we continue on the same path we're on for healthcare? What if we make no changes? What if it keeps getting more and more affordable? What if more and more of our employees go into bankruptcy? What if more and more of our employees get sick and get sicker? Or we can bite the bullet and make the change and create the best health plan possible and become known as the company in our industry that truly takes care of its employees, not just financially, but gives them outlets and access to care that has different and better clinical outcomes as well. It's possible, it's doable, it's being done now, and large, strong, and brave employers are willing to do it right now, and they are doing it right now.
Awesome. I would only say one more thing, and that is if you're going to spend all this money on your healthcare benefits, often the second or third largest cost of doing business, why not leverage that spend to create loyalty and actually create competitive retention and attraction? It's like leverage the spend you're already making to create a better, more loyal workforce.
I think the biggest problem to that is that employers think United and Blue Cross and Cigna and Aetna have the same goals as them. And so forth, they think if a $400 billion company like United Healthcare can only do a 10 or 15% increase every year, and that's the best they can do, then a $20 million, a $30 million company can't do any better. What employers need to realize is the revenue model of these insurance companies are completely different than the employer and the patient. And most importantly, they don't have a legal obligation to the employer or the patient. They have a legal obligation to one entity and one entity only, and that's their shareholders. And the interest of their shareholders is very different than the interest of their customers and their clients.
Yep, well said. Dave, it's always fun to chat with you. Thank you so much for being on the show today. Good luck
Thanks,
in
Darrell.
your
Good luck
travels,
to you too. Good
and
luck with your program.
we will catch you another time. Thank you for listening in today as we have discussed leadership strategies that drive loyalty with the CEO of ePower Benefits, David Contorno.